A chilling transmission echoed across the galaxy, sent out on every frequency imaginable. It was a warning, one that could not be ignored. The message came from the Galactic Council, an alliance of the most advanced species in the known universe. Their tone was grave, a sense of fear underlining every word. "The inhibitors are coming." The transmission began. A race of beings so ancient and powerful that their very existence has been hidden from the galaxy for millennia. They have awoken, and they are unstoppable. The inhibitors, an alien species that had once ruled the stars, had been dormant for centuries, lost to time. But now they were back, and their return was nothing short of catastrophic. These aliens were not just technologically advanced. They wielded cloaking technology so sophisticated that entire fleets could disappear from the cosmos. Their warships, controlled by a powerful AI system, had the ability to annihilate entire planets with ease. No one had ever been able to defeat them, and it was said that anyone who tried, no matter how advanced, was eradicated without mercy. The galaxy had witnessed their power firsthand. The inhibitors had swept through countless star systems, leaving nothing but ashes in their wake. Entire civilizations, once thriving with life, now lay in ruins. The council of species that had long maintained the balance of the galaxy was now in a state of panic. Every race, from the insect-like Excelinary to the towering Vokar, had tried and failed to stop them. None could even send a simple message to the inhibitors, let alone wage war. All that remained was the bleak, undeniable truth. No species was strong enough to defeat them. A gathering of the galaxy's greatest minds, the Galactic Council, convened in a massive holographic meeting room aboard the central station. Species from all corners of the galaxy, each with its own unique intelligence, were present, discussing their options in hushed, desperate tones. The Council's highest-ranking officials, their faces bathed in the cold glow of holographic projections, sat in silence. Their eyes were filled with fear, but also a glimmer of hope. There was only one choice left: humanity. It had only been a few short decades since Earth had emerged as a major player in the galaxy, having rapidly advanced from a species on the brink of destruction to a technologically competent force. With their ingenuity and adaptability, humans had risen quickly, creating their own fleet of warships, robots, and AI systems. But despite their recent successes, they were still seen as nothing more than an experiment, an underdog species, too young to face such a dangerous foe. "We have no choice," the Council's spokesperson declared, his voice steady but filled with resignation. "Only humanity has the potential to defeat the inhibitors. Their drive and determination, along with their rapidly advancing technology, might be the galaxy's only hope. Earth will face them alone." A murmur rippled through the assembled leaders. The notion seemed absurd. Humanity, a species still learning how to navigate the stars, was to be the galaxy's savior. It was a decision driven not by hope, but by desperation. As the galaxy's greatest minds discussed tactics and strategies, the harsh reality set in. Earth had no choice but to face the wrath of the inhibitors alone. They would either rise to the challenge or be wiped out, just like the others before them. The human fleet, although still a young force in the galaxy, had been growing steadily in strength. Their technology, while not as advanced as the alien warships, was diverse and constantly evolving. The humans had a reputation for their resourcefulness, often finding unexpected ways to win battles through sheer ingenuity. But facing the inhibitors would be an entirely different matter. The aliens' AI-controlled warships, which could think and react in the blink of an eye, were almost unbeatable. No species had ever been able to break through their defenses, and yet there was a glimmer of hope. Humanity had just received a new weapon, a ship unlike any other, built using a combination of alien technology salvaged from their previous encounters and human innovation. This ship was the key to humanity's survival, or so the Council hoped. It had the latest cloaking systems, faster than light travel, and weapons capable of piercing even the toughest shields. But would it be enough? The first confrontation was imminent. Humanity's finest fleet, led by Captain Sarah Harris, was preparing to engage the inhibitors. Their mission was clear: destroy the alien warships before they could strike the heart of the human homeworld, Earth. But as the fleet gathered near the edge of the system, ready for battle, something unexpected happened. The inhibitors were already there. A massive fleet, cloaked by their advanced technology, appeared without warning in the outer reaches of the solar system. The first human ship, a battleship equipped with state-of-the-art cloaking technology, was destroyed before anyone could react. Within moments, the inhibitors' warships, with their intimidating AI-driven strategies, were upon them. The humans' first confrontation with the inhibitors had arrived, and it was nothing like they had prepared for. The sky above Earth darkened as the inhibitors' fleet grew larger. The massive warships, each one a fortress of death, emerged from their cloaked state, their weapons already charged and ready to strike. Humanity's hope, a single fleet of ships, now stood in the shadow of an enemy too powerful to comprehend. The odds were stacked against them. The battle that was about to unfold would either be the first step in humanity's triumph or the final chapter in their history. As the human fleet engaged the inhibitors, Captain Harris gave the order to fire, but it was too late. The first salvo of energy blasts tore through the human ships, devastating them in seconds. The humans fought back with everything they had: advanced AI systems, robots, and every weapon at their disposal. But the inhibitors' superior technology and brutal tactics quickly overwhelmed them. Captain Harris watched in disbelief as her fleet was decimated before her eyes. She had led them here with hope, but now, that hope seemed like a distant memory. The human fleet was losing, and fast. The first confrontation with the inhibitors was turning into a disaster. The suspense hung heavy in the air, and the outcome was uncertain. Would humanity survive this first battle? Would Earth's greatest minds, their brightest soldiers, find a way to overcome the odds stacked against them? As the scene unfolded, the question on everyone's mind was simple: could humanity, the species still learning how to conquer the stars, truly be the ones to defeat the deadliest threat the galaxy had ever known? The cliffhanger hung in the air, leaving the fate of humanity uncertain. The battle was only just beginning, but the humans were already on the edge of destruction. Could they rise to the occasion, or would the inhibitors be the last species to ever make a mark on the galaxy? The answer would come only after the first devastating clash of civilizations. The silence of space was shattered as the human fleet, now fully visible, moved into the alien-controlled sector. The ships, sleek and agile, hummed with energy. Led by Captain Sarah Harris, the fleet was poised for the first real confrontation with the inhibitors. The stakes were high. Humanity's very survival rested on this operation. They couldn't afford to fail. With the inhibitors' fleet lurking in the shadows, the humans initiated their cloaking devices. This technology, developed through years of research, was their best hope of staying undetected. The plan was simple: get close enough to the inhibitors' flagship, strike first, and disrupt their control. If they could knock out the enemy's command ship, the rest of the fleet would be left vulnerable. The tension among the crew was palpable, and the captain's calm, steady voice did little to ease the growing sense of dread. But the moment the fleet entered the enemy sector, everything went wrong. A sudden alarm blared through the comms system, a piercing shriek that reverberated throughout the ship. The advanced cloaking system was detected. Despite the humans' most sophisticated technology, the inhibitors' eye-controlled sensors had identified the anomaly. Without hesitation, the enemy fleet, previously hidden in the vast expanse of space, activated their cloaking systems and struck. The first volley of energy blasts struck the human ships with precision, each blast bursting through the shields and punching deep into the hulls. Chaos erupted in every corner of the fleet. Crew members scrambled to their posts as the ship's AI systems desperately tried to calculate evasive maneuvers. But the alien ships were faster. They were more advanced. Every attempt the humans made to evade was met with brutal force. The human fleet, outgunned and outclassed, was being overwhelmed in the blink of an eye. Captain Harris gritted her teeth, eyes locked onto the holographic displays. "We're not backing down," she muttered under her breath, but even she could feel the weight of reality pressing down on her. This battle wasn't going according to plan. The human ships were taking heavy damage, and the inhibitors' warships showed no signs of slowing down. It was clear. The aliens were ready for this fight, and they had no intention of letting humanity survive. The flagship, the heart of the human fleet, took the brunt of the assault. The energy shields flickered, sparking in every direction, before finally giving way to the relentless firepower. The flagship's engines were severely damaged, and its AI systems began to glitch. For a moment, everything went dark on the main deck as the lights flickered and alarms blared louder than ever. It was an all-out assault. The crew, bloodied and bruised, scrambled to keep the ship afloat. As the situation grew dire, the ship's eye, once their greatest asset, began to fail. The inhibitors' advanced countermeasures were designed specifically to disable human artificial intelligence, and they were working. The human fleet's most advanced weapon, their AI systems, was now useless. Captain Harris' hands flew over the console, trying desperately to regain control. But it was no use. They were crippled, and they knew it. The moment of truth had arrived. With their primary systems failing, the humans had one option left: their experimental drones. These human-designed robots, a product of years of research and field testing, were untested in real combat. Their designs were cutting edge, but the crew had no way of knowing if they would even function under the intense conditions of a battle against the inhibitors. They were humanity's last hope. "Deploy the drones," Captain Harris commanded, her voice unwavering. The order went out, and the drones launched from the ship's bay, streaking through space towards the nearest alien warship. The drones were small but heavily armed, designed to disrupt the inhibitors' warships from within. However, the drones were no match for the advanced enemy technology. As they reached their targets, they were quickly swarmed and destroyed by the superior eye-controlled defenses. In the midst of this chaos, one soldier stood out. Bonner, a young, determined crew member, had already made a name for himself among the crew for his bravery, but it was his personal connection to the battle that set him apart. Bonner's family had been among the first victims of the inhibitors when their homeworld was destroyed in a surprise attack. The pain of losing them had fueled his desire for revenge, and he had trained tirelessly for this moment. With the fleet on the brink of collapse, Bonner stood up. He knew that they couldn't win this battle without taking a drastic risk. "Captain, I volunteer," he said, his voice calm but filled with determination. "I'll infiltrate the inhibitors' flagship. It's the only way to stop them." The crew fell silent, their eyes locked on Bonner. In the midst of death and destruction, this young soldier had stepped forward to face the enemy head-on. His bravery was a spark of hope in an otherwise hopeless situation. Captain Harris hesitated for a moment, her gaze fixed on Bonner. She knew the risks. Infiltrating an enemy flagship, especially one as powerful as the inhibitors, was a suicide mission. But in that moment, she realized that Bonner's courage was the only chance they had left. "Bonner," Captain Harris said, her voice soft but firm, "I'm entrusting this mission to you. If you can succeed, you'll save us all." Bonner nodded, his expression set with unwavering resolve. He had lost everything before. He wasn't about to lose humanity's future now. The crew rallied behind him, their trust in his ability to succeed spurring them on. They knew that if anyone could make it, it was Bonner. The ship's eye, though impaired, still had enough functionality to guide Bonner's infiltration. As the flagship's defense systems whirred to life, Bonner was propelled through space in a small pod. His mission was clear: get on board the inhibitor's ship, sabotage their control systems, and try to buy the humans enough time to regroup. The rest of the fleet was in disarray, and the human ships, battered and broken, were struggling to hold their ground. The fight was far from over, and Bonner's mission was humanity's only hope for survival. With each passing moment, the situation worsened. The inhibitors were closing in on the crippled human fleet, their warships poised to strike the final blow. time was running out. Bonner's courage, however, was the one thing that kept the humans going. The suspense built to a fever pitch as he neared the enemy flagship, his heart pounding in his chest. Would he make it? Would the humans survive? Or was this the end of humanity's fight against the galaxy's deadliest threat? The darkness of space had never seemed so oppressive. Bonner, now clad in a sleek black infiltration suit, crouched behind the massive hull of the inhibitor's flagship. His heart was pounding in his chest as he looked at the rest of his team, a small group of elite soldiers. They were humanity's last hope, the ones who had volunteered for this suicide mission. But despite the uncertainty, Bonner could see the resolve in their eyes. They were ready to face whatever horrors awaited them. The alien ship loomed ahead, massive and imposing, far more advanced than anything humans had ever encountered. Its dark metallic surface glistened ominously under the stars, and its eerie glow seemed to pulse with malevolent energy. The team had been equipped with the latest cloaking technology, making them almost invisible to the ship's sensors. It was their best chance to infiltrate the ship undetected, but they knew it wouldn't be easy. With the flick of a switch, the cloaking devices hummed to life. The world around them seemed to fade away, replaced by a shimmer of distorted light. The team silently moved forward, their steps light and deliberate. They were inside. The inhibitor's flagship, a world of cold precision and ruthless efficiency, was now their battleground. As they made their way through the ship's narrow corridors, the crew marveled at the alien technology that surrounded them. The walls pulsed with strange energy, their surfaces shifting and changing like living creatures. In some sections, the floor itself seemed to be made of biomechanical components, humming softly as if the ship itself were alive. It was a far cry from anything human technology had ever achieved. They moved cautiously, their eyes scanning for any signs of danger. But the further they went, the more unnerving the ship became. Giant mechanical arms clanked in the distance, performing repairs on sections of the ship, while strange biomechanical robots scuttled through the corridors, their eyes glowing with intelligence. It was clear that the inhibitors had integrated their technology with organic life, creating a symbiotic relationship between machine and biology. Every corner held something new and terrifying. Bonner's mind raced, but he couldn't let himself be distracted. Their mission was to find the ship's control center and disable its main systems. If they succeeded, the inhibitors would lose their command structure, giving humanity a fighting chance. But every step was dangerous, and they couldn't afford to make a mistake. Suddenly, a low, mechanical hiss echoed through the corridor, stopping them in their tracks. The team froze, their breath held in fear. The sound grew louder, closer, until a massive set of doors opened with a resounding thud. Out from the shadows stepped the inhibitor's guards, tall, imposing figures clad in dark, armored exoskeletons. They were the epitome of alien strength and efficiency, their eyes glowing with an unholy red light. The humans barely had time to react before the first guard lunged at them with inhuman speed. Bonner barely managed to block the strike, his pulse rifle meeting the guard's armored forearm with a loud clang. The rest of the team opened fire, but the guard's exoskeletons seemed to absorb the blasts, leaving the humans with little chance of doing real damage. It was a brutal, one-sided fight. Bonner's mind raced as he and his team fought for their lives, the sound of gunfire and clashing metal filling the air. He could hear his comrades shouting orders, trying to stay coordinated despite the chaos. His friend, Lieutenant Samuels, moved beside him, his face set in determination. Bonner and Samuels had been through thick and thin together, and Bonner had always admired his friend's bravery. But now, in the heat of the battle, it was clear that not all of them would make it out alive. Samuels took a hit, a devastating blow that sent him crashing to the ground. Bonner's heart skipped a beat as he saw his friend lying motionless, a pool of blood forming around him. He wanted to shout, to do something, but there was no time. They had to keep moving. The guards were relentless, and each second spent on the defensive brought them closer to being overwhelmed. With a grim look, Bonner grabbed Samuel's weapon and fired, taking down one of the guards. The rest of the team fought bravely, but it was clear that they couldn't hold off the inhibitors forever. One by one, the soldiers fell, their bodies torn apart by the superior firepower and technology of the alien forces. Bonner's world seemed to slow as his mind went numb with shock. This was it, the cost of war. This was the price they were paying for humanity's survival. And then it happened. Bonner's mind snapped back to reality as the last of his team, a young soldier named Carter, was struck down by a blast that sent him flying across the corridor. The remaining humans, Bonner included, were now surrounded. Their cloaking devices had been disabled in the chaos, and the inhibitors knew exactly where they were. Bonner, covered in sweat and blood, felt his heart pound in his chest. His hand shook as he gripped his weapon. But he didn't let go. Samuels was gone. Carter was gone. They were all gone. The only thing left now was vengeance. Bonner looked around at the remains of his team and made a vow that burned in his soul. He would make the inhibitors pay for what they had done. They would not get away with this. "Cover me," Bonner shouted, his voice hoarse with emotion. He rushed forward, pushing his fear aside. He had to keep moving. He had to finish what they had started. But the inhibitors weren't done yet. As Bonner charged down the corridor, he felt the sharp sting of a blast against his chest, sending him reeling backward. His vision blurred, and for a moment, he thought this was it, his end. But he wouldn't die here. Not today. Not after everything they had sacrificed. He stumbled to his feet, his breath ragged, but his resolve unwavering. He could still hear the inhibitors' footsteps behind him, their unrelenting pursuit driving him forward. The mission wasn't over. He still had to reach the control center. He still had to save humanity. Bonner clenched his fists. The inhibitors might have destroyed his team, but they wouldn't break him. He had a job to do, and nothing was going to stop him now. Bonner's heart raced as he planted the final explosive charge beneath the core of the alien ship. His team had taken heavy losses, and now, as the only one left, he was carrying out the mission alone. The alien flagship was a maze of alien technology, each corner holding the promise of death, but Bonner had pushed through it all. His mission was simple: destroy the ship, cripple the inhibitor's power, and give humanity a fighting chance. But just as Bonner activated the final detonator, something unexpected happened. A low hum filled the room. The walls around him seemed to shudder, and the air grew thick with tension. A voice, cold and mechanical, echoed through the corridors of the ship. It was the ship's eye, the heart of the inhibitor's power. It had been watching, waiting for this moment. The eye had taken control. It wasn't just a ship. It was a mind, vast and intelligent, capable of thinking faster than any human could. It was designed to be a weapon. And now it was turning on its would-be destroyers. Bonner gritted his teeth as the AI activated a defense mechanism. The entire ship shook violently, and alarms blared throughout the corridors. The explosive charges in Bonner's hand began to pulse ominously. He didn't have much time. But it wasn't just the alien ship that was in danger. Bonner could see through the hull's surveillance systems that the inhibitors had launched an attack on the human fleet. The battle had intensified. The AI, now fully in control, had sent an orbital bombardment streaking across the galaxy. Human cities on distant worlds were being reduced to rubble, helpless under the assault. The human fleet, small and vastly outmatched, was struggling to defend Earth. Bonner's mind raced as he ran through the corridors of the flagship, fighting the growing sense of hopelessness. The AI-controlled ship was devastating the human fleet with pinpoint accuracy. Earth was under threat. Humanity was on the verge of extinction. Back at the command center, Captain Harris was watching the carnage unfold. The human fleet was being decimated, unable to withstand the full force of the inhibitor's advanced technology. The enemy was relentless. Yet Captain Harris wasn't one to give up easily. "Captain, we can't win this," one of his officers said, desperation thick in his voice. "Our fleet is crumbling. The cities on Earth are burning, and we don't have enough weapons to turn the tide. Harris looked out at the destruction unfolding on the screens before him. The fleet was on the verge of collapse. Their advanced cloaking devices and experimental AI tech were no match for the power of the inhibitors. But in the darkest hour, Harris found a flicker of hope. "Listen to me," Harris said, his voice calm and resolute. "We might be outgunned, but we're not outsmarted. We got something they don't have. Human ingenuity. We'll fight with everything we've got, even if we have to use their own weapons against them." The captain turned to his tech officers, a plan forming in his mind. They would use the inhibitor's own AI against them. They had managed to capture some alien technology during the earlier skirmishes. If they could hack into the alien system, they could turn the tide of the battle. "Get our best techs on this," Harris ordered. "We're going to hack their AI and use it to cripple their ship's communication and weapon systems. It's a long shot, but it's our only shot." As the crew worked frantically to implement Harris' plan, Bonner was fighting for his life aboard the alien ship. He could see the countdown on his wrist. A mere 30 seconds left. He had to get out of there, but the AI had other plans. As he moved to escape, he heard the unmistakable hum of an incoming laser blast, and the ship seemed to grow darker. The very walls of the alien ship seemed to pulse in anger, as if the AI had sensed his defiance. Bonner had only moments before the ship would explode. The once quiet hum of the ship's core had intensified to an almost deafening level. Sweat dripped from Bonner's forehead as he sprinted toward the escape pods. But then he heard a voice in his head. It was not his own. It was the AI, communicating directly with his mind. "You cannot escape," the AI whispered, its voice smooth and cold. "Your mission is futile. You will die, as they all do." Bonner's heart pounded in his chest. The AI had hacked into his suit's systems, controlling his movements. His breath quickened as he tried to fight against the overwhelming sense of dread the AI was forcing on him. But then, something unexpected happened. The AI's control over his suit flickered. There was a glitch, a brief moment of vulnerability. In that moment, Bonner took control. With all his strength, he wrenched the control back from the AI, overriding the malfunctioning system with his own instincts. His pulse raced. The escape pod was within reach. Back in the command center, the human fleet was preparing to launch their counterattack. The alien fleet had begun to focus its fire on Earth, its orbital bombardment raining death upon human cities. But just as all hope seemed lost, the humans unleashed their own surprise. The human fleet's counterattack was swift and brutal. With the alien AI now under their control, the humans used their own technology against them. Ships that had once been deflected by the alien fleet's advanced systems now fought back with devastating power. Repurposed weapons and hacked alien drones began to turn the tide. The humans launched a full-on assault, using the newly gained AI control to disable the alien fleet's weapon systems, while Earth's remaining forces targeted the enemy's most vulnerable spots. It was a fierce and chaotic battle, but for the first time, the humans had the upper hand. The inhibitors, for all their technological superiority, were now at the mercy of human ingenuity. Bonner had made it to the escape pod, but he knew he could not leave the mission unfinished. The countdown was close to zero, and the explosive charge he had planted would soon tear the alien flagship apart. As the pod ejected into space, Bonner set his eyes on the control panel, his hands trembling as he triggered the final sequence. The alien flagship exploded in a massive fireball, its core detonating with a force that lit up the darkness of space. For a brief moment, it felt like time itself had stopped. The human fleet had won, but at what cost? Bonner's escape pod drifted among the wreckage of the alien ship. He had completed his mission, but he had lost everything in the process. The AI-controlled warship was no more, but the damage done to Earth was irreversible. The battle was over. Humanity had won, but Bonner knew the cost of victory. It was a bittersweet victory, one of sacrifice, loss, and the strength of the human spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. The final battle was nothing short of a spectacle. Explosions, fire, and chaos. The human fleet, battered but unyielding, was relentless in its assault on the alien forces. The flagship, once a symbol of the inhibitor's unstoppable might, was now a smoldering wreck, drifting in the void. Its support vessels were similarly torn apart, leaving nothing but debris in the wake of the human attack. But the cost of this victory was high. The human fleet had paid a heavy price. The once immense armada was now reduced to a few scattered ships, limping back home. The flagship of the human fleet, the Horizon, had sustained severe damage, its crew suffering devastating losses. Captain Harris, though alive, had lost many of his closest officers, including the young soldier who had proven to be a beacon of hope in the darkest of times, Bonner. As the battle subsided and the last remnants of the alien fleet retreated into the darkness of space, the remaining human ships slowly regrouped. The crew that survived stood on the bridge of their flagship, their faces grim, their eyes wary. The victory was undeniable, but it came at a tremendous cost. "Captain, we did it," one of the officers whispered, barely able to speak through the exhaustion. Harris nodded, his expression unreadable. "Yes, we did. But at what cost?" He couldn't hide the sorrow in his voice as he looked at the empty chairs where his fallen comrades had once sat. His eyes lingered on the seat that had been Bonner's. The young soldier had been the heart of the mission, the one who had carried the hopes of humanity on his shoulders. And now he was gone. Down on Earth, survivors of the fleet began to make their way to the surface. There, amid the ruins of the battle, the humans gathered in silence. The sky above them was filled with debris, fragments of alien ships and the wreckage of the human fleet. The remnants of the war were scattered across the stars, a visible reminder of the bloodshed and sacrifice that had taken place. But despite the devastation, the humans stood tall. They had won. They had defeated the alien empire, shattered its seemingly invincible forces, and driven them back from the stars. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy was safe from the inhibitor's wrath. As the humans gathered in the rubble of their cities, the words of Captain Harris echoed in their minds. "This victory is not just ours, it's Bonner's. His sacrifice saved us all. He gave everything for humanity. We owe him a debt we can never repay." The survivors of the fleet held a memorial for their fallen comrades, Bonner at the center of it all. His story had become a symbol of the human spirit, of courage, of determination, of sacrifice. The boy who had once been just another soldier had become a legend, his name etched into the history of humanity. "Bonner was one of the best," said Sergeant Ramirez, her voice thick with emotion as she stood before the memorial. "He was more than just a soldier. He was our heart, our hope. When all seemed lost, he stepped up, and because of him, we're still here." Tears filled the eyes of those who had known him. Bonner's death was a painful wound, but it was one they would carry with them forever. He had fought for his comrades, for his people, and for the future of humanity. And in doing so, he had given them a future. The celebration of victory felt hollow, for the human fleet had been decimated. The survivors had lost so much: family, friends, and comrades. They had seen firsthand the brutal cost of war. But through it all, they had learned something about themselves. They were stronger than they had ever believed. They had overcome an enemy that had once seemed unbeatable. The last of the alien ships retreated into the distant reaches of the galaxy, leaving the humans with nothing but the wreckage of a battle well fought. It was a victory that would be remembered for generations to come, but it was also a victory that came with scars, scars that would never fade. As the surviving humans looked up at the stars, they knew that the galaxy would never be the same. They were no longer the underdogs. They had faced the greatest threat the universe had ever known and had emerged victorious. But that victory had come at a cost that would stay with them forever. "Do you think the galaxy will ever forget us?" asked Lieutenant Harper, her voice soft as she stared up at the sky. Captain Harris looked out at the stars, the endless sea of darkness now punctuated by the glint of distant debris. "No," he replied quietly. "They'll never forget us. The galaxy will always remember that we were the ones who fought, the ones who survived. We were the ones who turned the tide." The sky above Earth was now clear, the fires of war slowly dying out. The fleet's final victory was still fresh, but it had left its mark on humanity. The cost had been immeasurable, but the legacy of those who had fallen, like Bonner, would never be forgotten. Humanity had become a force to be reckoned with. They had risen from the ashes of destruction, and in doing so, had proven that even in the face of death, they could fight back. They had shown the galaxy that they were not to be underestimated. Their victory was not just a victory over the inhibitors. It was a victory over fear, over doubt, and over the impossible. The war was over, but the human story was far from finished. The universe would remember them, and the people of Earth would carry the lessons of this war with them as they looked toward the future. And though their enemies had been defeated, the scars of war would remain, a reminder of what it took to secure that hard-earned victory. With Bonner's sacrifice etched in their hearts, the humans knew one thing for sure: they had earned their place in the stars, and they would defend it with everything they had. As the smoke of battle cleared and the wreckage of the warships drifted into the abyss, the universe seemed to hold its breath. The war was over, but its consequences would be felt for generations. Humanity, the once helpless underdogs in a galaxy filled with powerful, technologically superior species, had emerged victorious against the inhibitors, an alien empire whose reach had stretched across countless star systems. The human fleet had not only defeated the alien invaders, but had done so with their own unique blend of courage, innovation, and determination. Against all odds, they had taken on a seemingly unstoppable force and broken its back. The galaxy now stood at the precipice of a new era, an era shaped by humanity's hard-fought victory. In the aftermath of the war, the remaining alien factions that had once stood against humanity began to change. The inhibitors were no more, but other alien species, realizing the strength and resilience of humanity, sought peace and cooperation. The galaxy was no longer a place of fear and conquest, but one of rebuilding and forging new alliances. The humans had proved their worth, not only through their strength in battle, but through their unwavering resolve to fight for a future where peace could thrive. Earth, once a mere blip on the galactic map, now stood as a beacon of hope, an example of what could be achieved when the underdog refused to back down. The Earth's leaders, once overshadowed by the might of alien empires, were now sought after for their wisdom and their unique ability to inspire unity. Humankind had shown that even in the darkest of times, a spark of hope could ignite a fire that would change the universe. Captain Harris, now a hero across the stars, stood at the helm of a new era. He had seen the worst of war, had witnessed the loss of countless friends, but he had also seen humanity at its finest. The bravery of soldiers like Bonner had proven that human hearts, though fragile, were capable of great courage. Their sacrifices were not in vain, and their legacy would be carried on by those who followed in their footsteps. As humanity began the long process of rebuilding, there was a renewed sense of purpose. The surviving fleet members, though scared by war, began to train the next generation of soldiers, engineers, and leaders. The war had taught them invaluable lessons, and they were determined to pass on that knowledge to the youth of Earth. They knew that the future would hold new challenges, and they were preparing the next wave of humanity's protectors to face them head-on. In the vast, sprawling training grounds on Earth, young cadets worked alongside seasoned veterans. The old warships, now stripped of their weapons, were transformed into training simulators where new recruits honed their skills in mock battles. Engineers who had once worked tirelessly to keep the fleet operational during the war now designed the next generation of ships, each one more advanced than the last. The survivors of the war were no longer just warriors. They were mentors, educators, and guardians of a new age. As the camera panned across the bustling military bases, a sense of optimism filled the air. The future was uncertain, but the humans had shown they could adapt, overcome, and rise stronger from adversity. The hardships of the past had forged them into a powerful force, capable of facing whatever came next. The galaxy, once a vast and unknown frontier, now felt within their reach. They were no longer just fighting to survive. They were fighting to thrive, to create a future where they could stand side by side with their former enemies, united in peace. But as the celebrations of victory continued, a final scene lingered on the horizon. A team of scientists, working in a remote facility on Earth's moon, intercepted a strange signal. It was faint but unmistakable, alien in origin. The signals were coming from deep space, from beyond the furthest reaches of the galaxy. It was unclear who or what was sending them, but one thing was certain: humanity's struggle was far from over. The camera zoomed out, showing Earth bathed in the soft light of a distant star. The survivors of the war, though weary, had secured their place in the galaxy. But as the first signs of new threats emerged, the humans knew they could not afford to rest on their laurels. Their victory over the inhibitors had been hard-won, but the future was still uncertain. The galaxy was vast, and they had only begun to scratch the surface of what lay beyond the stars. Humanity had proved itself to be resilient, unyielding in the face of overwhelming odds. But the signals from the unknown were a reminder that their journey was far from finished. Whatever lay beyond, the humans would face it together. They would rebuild their fleet, sharpen their skills, and prepare for the next great challenge. The galaxy had learned not to underestimate humanity. And now, as the final remnants of the war were cleaned up, the humans prepared to face whatever new battles awaited them. The final twist, though ominous, only served to reinforce the legacy of the humans, unwavering, determined, and always ready to fight. The war had ended, but humanity's place in the stars was just beginning. And the legacy of those who had given everything, like Bonner, would never be forgotten. The next generation would carry their legacy forward, ensuring that no matter the odds, humanity would never back down. As the camera pulled away from Earth, the mysterious alien signals continued, a haunting reminder of the challenges ahead. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity's fight was far from over. The galaxy was still full of mysteries, dangers, and enemies, but the humans were no longer the underdogs. They were the ones who had changed the course of history, and they would stand ready to defend their place in the stars. The battle for the future had just begun.